What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Football Boot Hour with me, James, here on the football. No, not on the foot. Oh God, I'm so tired. This has gone so badly. With me, James, on the Boot Wizard YouTube channel, with my co-host Andrew of the Lockhart Boot Blog here, as always. And today, you may notice we are joined by a very special guest. He has been gracious enough to agree to come back and see us one more time. We love having him on. We had fantastic last time. We had to get him back. Substance Football is in the house. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How is everyone? Thank you to everyone watching as well.
Yeah, so Andrew's sleepy because it's like 7 a.m. I'm sleepy because I've been up since 7 a.m. and it's like nearly, was it gone 11 o'clock? I'm dead. But anyway, nobody's winning here. Nobody is winning here, but we're here nonetheless. Thank you for joining us, Sub. We really do appreciate it. Now, the reason that Sub has agreed to join us is this is kind of his idea. This was a topic that he brought up recently in the group chat, and we kind of extrapolated it out. And the whole idea here is based around this idea of people seem to be following players and not clubs, which is a really odd situation to be in, for me at least. That's how I feel. And we're going to discuss that. We're obviously going to discuss it in relation to boots, how that applies to signature lines, how the kind of toxic player bias that we've got is impacting that, and whether in the end, is your loyalty to brands or individuals justified, and is it something you should keep doing? It's going to be a very interesting discussion, and I'm really looking forward to it. But first, the good stuff. The good stuff. I would normally just ask, what have you been wearing this week? But I actually want to hear from Sub first, not just about what you've been wearing, but how was the Sakito Scudetta launch event? You were at the launch event in London. How was that?
Oh yeah, well, first of all, shout out to Sakito for inviting me in, as well as LJ, so LJ Collects, for those who don't know. It was very good, actually. It was like one of the first times I've ever been to something like that, where you actually get to try the boots on and then actually play a little game in them. Unfortunately, we have to hand them back. I don't get to keep my pair, but just to actually get a feel of the boot was like very, very cool.
You weren't tempted to just slide a pair in the bag and just kind of,
a little
slide off. Fair enough. And obviously you've been on holiday recently, as you've just told me. We're not jealous whatsoever. So have you actually been able to try anything this week, or is it just the Sakitos? Is that the last thing you were playing?
Before I flew out, I did have a game on the Saturday, and I wore the Messi F50s.
Oh, so wonderful. What a boot.
So good.
Yeah. So each time I wear them as well.
I agree. I absolutely agree with you. Andrew, to you, my friend, what has been on your feet this week? What's next in the review? I don't know what's in the pipeline for you.
Nothing.
Nothing.
I gave these a little bit of a run around. Yeah.
I was not expecting you to pull out the Messi Nemesis.
That was the reason I took a picture of them.
That's true, actually.
Yeah. So, and then I wanted to give these a run around, but like I'm tempted to send these off and get them blacked out.
Mm-hmm. Which would be an awful shame. Be an awful shame. Just like suck it up. Like wear the gold. Do it.
Oh. So. Yeah, these still look really nice.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I had a little bit of time, but obviously between school and my kid, there's not a lot of time to do anything. The blog is still pretty much broke, so I might get some money soon to buy the next pair, but things are not they're not looking good.
So here is our weekly plea that we do have boots for sale, and you buying our boots once we reviewed them really keeps the channel, the blog, etc. going. In this particular instance, definitely go and check out what Andrew has for sale, because otherwise we may have issues. Please go and check out what Andrew has for sale and help fund the next Lockhart Boots blog review. If you like them,
Or,
support
you
them.
know, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to, like, beg or feel like I'm, you know, like I deserve anybody's money. But you could also, instead of just buying something, you could also, you know, leave a donation to the blog. Because
Yes.
this is entirely self-funded, and when the blog has no money, the blog has no money. So,
yeah, that's very true. With that now said, I'm going to do something that's like probably like the inverse of that, and I'm going to run through. I've had a very busy week, either testing or filming, so I'm just going to run through a whole bunch of boots that
nice.
I have actually had. The first one being this one here. So this is the
Yes.
the AG Ultra Ultimate. Now this one also happens to be in the women's fit, so I was trying to like combine multiple things together. I was like, okay, I can try the women's against the men, I can try the AG against the FG, that kind of thing. Very nice, very good. And the extra, the way they've actually put the bumper in properly, and the extra protection across the toe. This is really solid. It gives you a bit of extra volume there, but they've done a lot of good work to make that a solid AG option. So I was pretty pleased with that. You may think that that's the same boot. It's not. This is the third tier takedown match, which is, again, surprisingly good for the 80 euros that it costs. Now, these aren't mine. They have been borrowed, but I needed them for some kind of video and stuff. So we have the carbon. I had the launch colorway, so colorway. I have worn these a good. I have worn the launch colorway a good bit. But yeah, so I just had these, and these are so nuts. I love the carbon so much.
Are they grey or blue? I can't really tell with the.
They're grey. They do definitely have a blue tint to them, but I would call them grey. Okay. So there's that. And then I have two other things. One is going to be a rant. We will get to the main topic, I promise, but I want to have this rant. I'm sorry. I ranted about this to Sub just literally a second ago before we came on air.
Yeah.
So this is the Tiempo Legend 10 Pro. Now, I don't necessarily want to have a huge rant about the boot itself. I do a little bit. But part of what I want to rant about is that this has been blown up to me multiple occasions by people going like, oh, it's just as good as the Elite. Like, buy this instead of the Elite. Save yourself 100 euros. I've seen people do it. I've heard people do it. I've seen reviewers do it. So I was like, right, you know what? These are on sale. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them and try them. So I got them. I tried them. And these are the most unstructured, like, I'm just going to demonstrate. And for those of you listening, I'm about to bend a pair of football boots in half. Like, why do they do that? Like, well, I know why they do that. It's because they're cheap. But like this, and then I can twist them. And the upper itself, all right, the upper itself is super soft, but there is zero structure to any of it. There's no responsiveness. There's no feeling of this doing anything outside of having a soft upper, which, yes, feels soft on the outside, but once you get them on, the liner on the inside is cheap as hell. Like, I would have been critical of the boot anyway for those things, but I was so disappointed considering what I'd been told about them that I just got angry. So yeah, these are stupid. I'm so not impressed with those. And then finally, we will move on. I don't want to rant for too much. These literally came in today. So my Sakitos finally arrived.
So nice.
And I haven't had much time with them at all. But I will say, Jesus, this upper. This synthetic, like, leather. Oh, my word. Like, people obviously compare it to the 2014 F50 Addy Zero. I see why. Bold statement for a boot I've had for a few hours. This might be better. Like, the upper, like, the material. I think it's better.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, like, jeepers. Does have a flaw that I don't like, which I showed you guys earlier, which is a weak point in the sole plate just here. So it's got a super snappy forefoot, but there's just not enough structure just here, and it just starts to fold in on itself. So we'll see how that affects actual performance when I get them get out playing in them. But they arrived. So yeah, I have been doing all of that with boots this week. It's been a busy as hell week.
Very nice.
With that,
I don't want to take any shine away from the Sakito. I'd love to keep talking about it, but I'm sure we'll talk about it later. I just want to point out that Tiempo you got on sale, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's the Pro. It's not like the Club or anything, right?
Oh no, Pro. So like first tier takedown. Yeah,
so
150 euros at full price.
Yeah, so it's cheaper than the high end, but it's still not cheap. Like if you think about the amount of boots you can get for that same price. Yeah. That's really disappointing.
Well, you can get, it's kind of an unfair comparison to make, and it's why I don't make it in reviews a lot, but you can get the elite level on sale for less than that at full price. And if you do a bit of research, a bit of looking around, you can get the elite level at the same price as the Pro on sale. So those Pros cost me 100 euros on sale. You can find elite level Tiempos at the same price. And the elite level is far, far superior. Yeah, like I say, if that had been the third tier takedown model, I would have been like, that's a bit disappointing with the sole plate, but the rest of it's okay. But considering it's the 150 euro second tier takedown model, that's so poor in my opinion. So poor.
But James, according to all these barefoot enthusiasts, that's how you want your boot to flex.
That's something we should get into in another podcast, isn't it? So what's your knowledge on like how like boots and foot mechanics, biomechanics should work? I know you're a man in the material sciences, but is that something you've got expertise on? Do we need to get you back to talk about that?
I won't say it's expertise, but I do know a little bit in terms of biomechanics in that it should only really flex in the forefoot. And the reason why most sole plates are like very stiff in that midfoot is to protect you from like kind of the pain that you would get from the lack of support from something that flexible.
Amazing that logic.
So weird. But these guys they're going against the industry, don't you know? They're doing what the big brands won't. Sorry, we can talk about this later. Yeah,
we'll talk about that on another podcast. But anyway, let's have a look at the chat real quick. So Boot Maniac Julio is here. Chris Pottle is here. We appreciate you. Footloose Boots is in the house. Yuli at x.quetzalcoatl.x is in the house as well. That Targaryen guy's here. True Jesus is here, who, by the way, I saw hit an absolute banger of a free kick on his social media this week. I was very impressed. Nicely done, my friend. Mark, GCFC Training, is here. So thank you all for joining us. Please get your questions into the chat and just engage, talk to us throughout. Andrew is usually the man looking at the chat, so definitely have a look. Yuli would like to know if the Sakito have better rainbow flickability than the Nikes. You have to go and ask Noah Kavanagh about the rainbow flickability of boots. Yeah, go and ask Noah about
the rainbow flickability. Yeah, ask Noah.
Ask Noah about it.
He's probably worn them already. He
Noah.
would know about the rainbow flickability about the boots.
Oh dear. Okay, Alex Martinez is also here. Thank you very much to everybody, but let's get into the main topic. And we're going to start. I'm going to pass immediately to Sub, because you're the one that definitely had this original thought and this original topic and idea that came up. So we're just going to start with quite simply the question, I suppose. Why are people following players and not teams?
I think it's one of those things where I don't want to compare it too much to basketball. I don't know too much around basketball, but you get the feeling that it's very parasocial nowadays, especially with social media now, where people kind of almost live vicariously through players rather than their team. So if their team's not doing well, but the player's doing well, they still feel good about what they're engaging with rather than the overall success of the team. But like sometimes those two will go hand in hand a lot of the time. Why it's become such a thing, I guess player brandings. But again, yeah, player branding is quite big now, interpersonal branding between players. So you don't have to be one of the best players in the world, effectively, to have some kind of unique brand, whether you're signed to a big, like a Nike or New Balance, for example. I don't want to be rude and say lesser players, but players who aren't as high profile with certain brands. If they were another brand, they
The
wouldn't.
Harvey Elliots of the world.
Okay, you took the words right out of my mouth. But yeah, I think that is the way the players are pivoted, rather than how they were. It's usually like only the best of the best before now anyone can have this kind of like profile to be. I like to call, I think, footballers are like influencers in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
where players have like cult followings rather than the teams. Because I don't know, there's like I said, the parasocial aspect, that someone you can relate to, you can almost like talk to now. Like I remember growing up, there was this kind of like parallelism between players that like you could say they're on like Mount Olympus kind of thing. Whereas now I could message a player after a game. He doesn't have to necessarily read the message, but I have that kind of proximity to players now. So like there's a more human aspect to them, and more like relatability as well.
Absolutely. I think all of that is so valid. Andrew, do you think a lot of that comes from social media? Is that like why this is happening?
So the idea that social media is the great equalizer is pretty good, you know? It's given a lot of people a voice. It's done great things. It's also done very, very horrible things. And I think one of the problematic aspects is people like stan culture. Mm-hmm. This is a big thing right now. It's like people standing certain people and celebrities and stuff. And I think the same thing goes for footballers. Like, so for me, like, I loved watching Keisuke Honda play. So for a long time, I'd follow like wherever he went and stuff. I wouldn't always buy the jersey, but I'd always be like, if it came up, maybe I'll grab one. And I always liked watching him play and things like that. But, aside from that, first and foremost was always Darby. I never and even with players who come and leave, like this summer, Darby's had like 3 youngsters leave, and it's like, wish them the best of luck. And, I realized like, I still follow a couple of them on social media. I'm going to stop doing that. They're not part of Darby anymore. But I'm also older. So, I'm tied to like a generation that strictly follow their teams. Maybe you have a player you look out for every now and then, but you don't always, track them down, see exactly what they're doing. So I think, across culture as a whole, we have this issue with stan culture. Like, I think one of the things is people have got to realize, like, your favorites are problematic. Don't meet your heroes is a phrase for a reason. And I think, like that Marseille player who moved from Getafe, we saw Fabrizio Romano pumping him up and stuff. And you see a lot of people standing him because like, he's a good young player. Like, yes, we know he's good, but when you strip it of the context of what he's done, like, then you shouldn't be praising him, things like that. But people are so willing to have a figure or someone to stan that they're willing to forgive a lot of things that they shouldn't forgive. Here's a quote unquote victimless crime we could think about, but Messi was found guilty of tax evasion. I think Messi's the greatest player of all time, but I don't excuse that. I'm not going to sit there and say like, Messi as a person is one of the greatest people of all time. No, he evaded taxes, just like we complain about a lot of rich people doing. And we should absolutely hold these people accountable to it. Just because I think he's the greatest player of all time doesn't mean he's not unapproachable. He isn't human, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I think to Sub's point, like, they're on top of Mount Olympus, but at the same time, we feel connected to them more than ever before. So it's almost like they're reaching down to bring us up to Mount Olympus with them at times. When, they're human just like us.
Yeah,
people complain. Sorry.
No, go on. I was literally going to agree with you.
Sorry. People complain about Balotelli and like how he had his career and stuff, but like, what would you do if you're giving tons and tons of money? Like, some of the decisions I saw Balotelli make, it's like, okay, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But, like, he didn't have anybody else to kind of guide him or anything. Like, I could have easily done the same thing if I'd been in his shoes. I can't sit there and laugh at Balotelli for, like, supposedly he walked around Manchester City Centre just handing out 50-pound notes to people passing by. Like,
yeah, I heard that.
I can't say that wouldn't be me doing the same thing. So I can't necessarily blame him, but people who are willing to excuse like anything that their favorites do is not good,
Yeah, I think you've got a good point with the kind of like sub with the Mount Olympus and you saying them kind of like reaching down and us feeling connected. It all plays together because we are more connected to them through social media. Obviously, the good and the bad. We have access. We get to see things we never saw before. But at the same time, there's a whole subset of people who seem to think that that gives them the right to say and do whatever they want to these people. And it also means that we forgive them for essentially, in some cases, everything. Like, I don't particularly want to get into that because it'll turn into a subject matter that we don't really want to get into today. But like, I just think it does. Hero worship is dangerous.
Yeah.
Like,
very much so.
Now, obviously, we want to talk about boots. So this greater access to people and you feeling connected to them and you feeling like they can lift you up to Mount Olympus. They're going to give you that kind of feeling. Does that then mean that those player brandings that Sub was talking about earlier, even your Harvey Elliott's, I'm so bad for like crapping on Harvey Elliott here. He's a great player, but like those Harvey Elliott's, you can still relate to them and you're like, he's bringing you up and it's like, oh, now I want his boots. So are those things even more important or effective, I suppose is the word, to brands than ever before? What do you think?
I think I guess when you look at signature lines in the first place, you have to think about them. What is so good about them in the first place, right? Where it's literally just a boot you're giving to a player that has their own initials or whatever. But the way brands kind of effectively market them, sometimes they'll give players boots with a story. So like, he's got this because he's done so and so. So it's almost like the brands are like, what's the word? Not congratulating, but like awarding the players with something for their successes, rather it's just them finding a way to make more money out of a boot. So, but as consumers, we see this and think, oh, Nike or whoever are giving this player a boot because they're doing so well. So I actually want this boot as well because it makes me closer to said player, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, it's like if they're doing well and they've been given this thing for doing well, and then I can have this thing, I'm part of that, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea. Do you reckon that's why we're seeing more and more signatures, Andrew?
Yeah, definitely. Companies absolutely know what's going on. Never, like, just as a whole, never think any of these companies don't know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
They absolutely know what they're doing. And even at a bigger picture, the meta picture, Instagram knows exactly what they're doing. Meta, Facebook, they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They know how their algorithm works. They know what it's doing to people. They don't care. Right? It's all about the dollars at the end of the day. So it's the same thing with, what the, again, Harvey Elliott. He got those boots inspired by his dog.
Yeah.
Like, that's super random. Like, I didn't know he had a dog. But I guess if you're super into Harvey Elliott, like, you know about his dog, you know his dog's name and everything, you'd be like, that's amazing. I want to have boots that, like, represent his dog or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's really weird in a lot of ways, this, like, stan culture.
Yeah, and it can go too far. Now, don't get me wrong, like, there's some players that if they got a signature boot, I would probably buy that boot. Now, it's a combination of, like, me being a boot head. Like, I'm generally into boots, so I have an obscene amount of them. So I will, to myself, justify having this extra pair. Now, there's not many players, but that probably makes me more inclined to buy the signature boots of those players that do get them that I want. For example, I have a couple of Rose Lavelle pairs. Like I big fan of that. I really wish I had managed to get hold of the Alex Morgan ones when they came around. I missed out on.
Be so expensive now.
I missed out on getting them when they first released, and then I had an opportunity to buy a pair, like in the resale market from Derek, actually, DL Boot Room, and I had 2 opportunities to buy them from him, and I just couldn't justify it. It was just too much money. I don't think he was charging stupid money for them, but it was beyond what my budget and what I was willing to spend. But there was only what was there 100 pairs of those?
Yeah,
something like that. So like, this is kind of what I mean. I wanted those boots purely because of the association with the player. It's exactly what Sub says. Sometimes it's the story, and things like that. And I don't think that in itself is a problem. It's definitely leaning into this idolizing stan culture of players and things like that, which can go too far, but it can be positive as well. Speaking of it going too far, I think this is where we move into my next thing I think we should talk about, which is this idea of this really toxic stan culture, the rivalry, and how that starts to apply to football boots and how people talk about them. So I shared recently with both of you, or at least with the group chat, a message that I got, somebody subtly trying to crap on the Messi F50 because the Mercurial was better. And the implication they made was that the Mercurial was better because the F50 wasn't for real players. The Messi F50 wasn't for like proper players. It was for, people who just take a few free kicks and don't play seriously. The undertone being, of course, Ronaldo is better than Messi. Messi has poor boots. And I think that this then leads itself to where we start to get like just this blindness of you've stopped thinking about what the best product is, and all you're trying to do is justify your hero worship. And to use Andrew's phrase, they're not going to sleep with you. So that's like, I'm just going to hand it across because that's kind of my piece on it, really. But Sub, have you kind of experienced that? And what are your thoughts on this when it's a genuine performance product and people are taking their hero worship bias and applying it to the product and to these signature boots?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily towards performance, but I've had a few conversations with people when I made posts about a new Ronaldo signature or Messi signature. More so with Messi is that they'll comment about how they feel Nike aren't respecting Ronaldo enough.
I've seen this so much, yeah.
By not giving him another pair of signature boots, and like, look what Adidas are doing for Messi. Even though what they're doing for Messi is ridiculous, to be fair. I think I said the link of the Bad Bunny Messi signature outfit. I'm not mad at something like that, but I didn't know. I don't think that's necessarily necessary. But yeah, it's just like they feel like they have to compete with each other on every single level. And the fact that Adidas are doing more for Messi and maybe their favorite player is Ronaldo, they almost feel like they're losing out because they're not being as celebrated as much, because Ronaldo's not being as celebrated as much. And then I'll go through comment sections on some Nike posts, especially during Portugal and Euros. You would see comments saying like, do you guys not feel that you're not promoting Ronaldo enough? And things of that ilk, basically. Like, they feel that their favorite player is not being held to a higher pedestal as what they feel that he should be, as opposed to what Adidas are doing with Messi, for example.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And that kind of whole idea that you bring up of people being like, oh, you're disrespecting Ronaldo, when realistically this is a business decision that's happening from both sides. From Ronaldo trying to get what he can get, Nike trying to save what they can save. This is two businesses kind of going head to head with that for sure. But I suppose, Andrew, what are your thoughts on this like toxic rivalry spilling over into the performance of a product? You can argue all day subjectively about whether Messi's the best or Ronaldo's the best or whatever. But surely when it comes down to a pair of football boots, you can't just stand there and go, well, the F50's crap because Messi wears it.
I mean, but they've been doing that for years. This isn't new. Like, okay, some of the guys in the comments are like, oh, they're definitely kids. It's all kids saying this. You would be surprised. You would be very surprised at the age profile of some of these people who are saying some of this stuff. Like,
absolutely.
You know, there are people who, you know, are in their 30s now, even in their 40s and beyond, who have a vested interest in saying X is better than Y. And especially for the Mercurials, like, this has been a thing for years. Like, I'd say the first kind of thing that I was seeing for the for Mercurials was maybe back as early as like 2002. Just randomly hearing bits and things around school. And then once I started working at a store, like, you know, it'd really pick up. You'd really have just guys come in, they buy vapors, blah, blah, blah. And then they just like have these comments. Like, they might pick up other boots and just be like, ugh, God, no wonder Nike is the best, or things like that. Or like,
yeah,
you automatically bash. And the association with Ronaldo, I think, has just made it worse. You know, I hadn't seen all this stuff about how Nike is disrespecting Ronaldo or anything. I didn't know what Sub was talking about until, like, he's talking about it right now. Like, I didn't realize, like, that'd been such a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And,
like,
yeah.
Huge.
I would say it's really funny because Ronaldo definitely doesn't help himself at times, right? That's also what made him so marketable in the first place when he was younger. Now that he's older and not as valuable, you know, it's very much easier for brands to kind of just give him, you know, not the time of day. He's like, no offense, guys, he's still playing in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And people are going to come in and probably say, like, well, Messi plays in America, nobody cares. But America is a growing soccer country. Saudi Arabia just has money. Like, and, you know, I'm sure we'll get comments debating that too. Like, who cares? Who cares?
You're like,
your life on this earth is finite. Go make somebody happy. Don't defend brands. Brands aren't your friends. I said it. You know, I've said it so many times. Brands aren't your friends. They're not going to sleep with you. Who cares?
Yeah.
You could sit there and say objectively, like, okay, you know, the Mercurial is X, Y, and Z. That's why I like it, blah, blah, blah. But then, yeah, like, that guy was implying, like, oh, what is he saying? Like, Mercurials are for people who actually play.
Yeah.
And it's
if you're training and playing like 3-4 times a week, then that's what Mercurials are for. If you're just a content creator who kind of takes free kicks, or you're somebody that doesn't play seriously, then that's who the Messis are for.
Yeah, and talk about like somebody who, one, does not actively engage with our content at all. Like, people like that, it almost feels like they just went and searched out content that was talking about the F50s, the Messi boots, just to leave a negative comment.
Yeah.
Like, just stripping away all context from review completely, as you know, versus people who come back, follow our content, and say and know what we're about, and be like, oh, okay, you know, this kind of makes sense, yada yada yada. You know, it's just so weird. Like, one, to stand a player, but even worse, to stand a brand. These are corporations. They don't care about you. You're a budgie with a wallet. Every time you defend a boot uncritically, there's an executive laughing, sitting there counting all of his money. You make them so happy that you will defend them uncritically.
I was waiting for that rant. I'm not going to lie to you. I knew it was coming.
Sorry.
I was actually. I'm not going to lie. I was going to set you up for it. So my
Give me
next
that soft serve.
Yeah, then my kind of softball that I was going to just throw up there was essentially the question of, I understand to a degree why people, they stand players, they feel this, they have this parasocial relationship that Sub's talking about. They feel like they're connected. Social media is doing that. You're getting lifted up to Mount Olympus. All these things. I think it goes too far, but I do understand. I do not understand why it happens with brands. Why do we care? A brand is not a person. A brand cannot actively care about you. So I don't understand personally how that happens to the extreme that it does. And with that said, Sub, how does that happen? What do you think people are thinking when they're just having this really intense, like, defense of the mercurial? Like, I don't get it.
I think it kind of comes down to, again, there's the parasocial side, but if you can almost see brands as teams now, like the exclusive clubs where, like FIFA and Ultimate Team, basically, that's what you can compare it to, where you can have your Messi's, Neymar's, Ronaldo's playing for different teams, but if they're all wearing the same brand, it still feels like that they're somewhat connected. So I go to a store and I pick up the Mercurial. I feel I'm maybe not on the same playing field, but I feel closer to the likes of Mbappe, Vinicius, Ronaldo, etc., as opposed to another brand. So I think there is that aspect of it as well. Because it's a team sport, I guess, like, there's that natural idea of pitting two things against each other, and Nike and Adidas are the two giants of one of the two giants of the sportswear world in general, really, not just football. So, and then it kind of extends to other sports as well, where you see other elite stars wearing the same kind of, they're all under the same kind of banner. So you're seeing the likes of the greatest sports people in the world, Federer, Nadal, Williams, LeBron, Jordan, they're all Nike. So it doesn't even have to be a football boot necessarily. Sometimes it could just be a normal trainer. I'm wearing a Nike. I'm in the same boat as these people. I feel good about myself because these people also wear this brand as opposed to something else.
That's a great point, actually. Like, it is like this, which is interesting from where we started saying that people are following players and not teams. That was our kind of like initial jumping off point. And now we're at a point where we're saying people are still following players, but to the point where they will then follow anything and any team that player is a part of. That's both a football team, shall we say, or it's the team Nike, as it were, which is a very interesting way to put it. Now, I suppose, like, it depends on the player, but kind of, Andrew, what do you think if, for example, we'll not use Messi or Ronaldo as the example because they're too kind of big, they're too extreme. But if you were to take, like, Neymar is a good example because he did jump ship and he went from Nike to Puma. But who's like Mbappe? Let's use Mbappe and Vinny as an option. If you today took Mbappe and Vinny out of Nike boots and you jump them into Under Armour, like, do you think that has because of everything we've talked about, do you think that has a huge impact on Under Armour, not just as a boot manufacturer, but as a brand?
Yeah, definitely. More so for someone like Mbappe and not Vinny. Just as an aside for Vinny, it does feel like there's a concerted effort to paint him as a villain as much as possible in a lot of ways. But for Mbappe, definitely, yeah. Under Armour would see a huge sea of change if something like that was to happen, and I think there would be people who'd attach themselves to the brand because of that.
They'd take that the approach that Subs just pointed out, that idea of my guy is Mbappe, he's now Team Under Armour, so therefore I'm Team Under Armour. So what we're really talking about here is expanding this whole concept beyond just a football boot and a signature boot, and it's how this player, this person, this individual impacts a brand as a whole, which is mad. So in which case, Sub, why do you think Nike aren't putting more into Ronaldo? Because he has such fervent fans, such crazy, stans. And by the way, somebody put in the comment, this Stan Eminem reference, which, by the way, there's so many people that don't understand that is where that came from. It's, I'm on a tangent. I'll come back, but like the number of people, like obviously younger people, who are like, oh yeah, Stan, and I'm like, they don't actually know that is an Eminem reference. They're like, oh no, Eminem just used it. I'm like, no, he created it. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Sub, I asked you a question. I've forgotten what that was because I went off on a tangent there. Do you remember what I asked you?
You're asking me about the whole Ronaldo, why people are so adamant about
thank you. That's where I was at. Yeah. So, as people are so crazy for Ronaldo, why aren't Nike making more of an effort to appease Ronaldo on the basis that, okay, he's not as big as he was, but surely he is still bringing in that Team Ronaldo, Team Nike money to a level where he's worth appeasing?
Okay. Because I like to overanalyze a lot of stuff. So when I see
Please
him
do.
win...
That's what we're all about here.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Quite literally, Sub, this is why you're here.
So I think this is all speculation on my part, by the way. I don't know if this is confirmed. When he joined Al Nassr,
hot take.
I think there's some kind of renegotiations with his contract that he did with Nike that benefits both parts. So I think, I'm not sure if he has a lifetime contract still, but he's still sponsored by Nike, but not in the same vein of like he's the face of the Mercurial, etc. And I think he's renegotiated his contract in such a way where he has more command over his image rights now. Because like since like maybe the start of this year, he's been doing more entrepreneurial kind of things. So
yeah,
Whoop is a big one. So I know he'd been wearing Whoop when he was at United, but it was never seen as like a visible investor in Whoop until he joined Al Nassr.
Okay.
And I think Whoop, maybe that kind of is a competitor for Nike Plus, which is, I guess, almost Nike's equivalent. So there's like that conflict of interest there. There was also, 10 years ago where Ronaldo tried to come out with his own line of trainers and Nike stepped in and said, yeah, you can't do that. So, and then the whole YouTube channel and stuff like that, I think like he's tried to get more, or he renegotiated his contract such that he has more command over his image rights. So he's able to build more of a kind of business presence as an entrepreneur as well. So I think that's what's the main reason why we don't see Ronaldo being as promoted as much on Nike's platforms as we probably were used to anyway. Actually, I was doing research for a video because I plan to make a video on this exact topic. I think it's about, he's not featured on Nike post on their Instagram page since around, I want to say June of last year.
Okay.
And I think that's promotion of a new kit. So there's not been any kind of Ronaldo-centered posts for quite some time now.
See, this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you get Sub on the podcast. It's those kind of takes and that kind of information. My lord. But yeah, you know what? That's such a solid point. And I think you're probably 100% correct. I think that's such a solid concept that is exactly what has happened, and then people are getting all bent out of shape that Nike aren't promoting Ronaldo, when in actual fact Ronaldo is pretty happy out building his own brand, his own portfolio, generating 20 million YouTube subscribers in 5 days. No, I'm not annoyed about that or jealous whatsoever.
Can I quickly add to that as well? I think
please do,
because of the way brands have marketed players and because of this kind of like very cultist fan base a lot of these times are, I think we've seen the replacement of Ronaldo with Mbappe and Vinicius is almost to their detriment now, where I've seen comments around like, these two aren't good enough, they're not as good as Ronaldo, why are you not promoting Ronaldo instead of these two? So I feel like some fans, some people, they just associate it's normal for people just to associate players with certain boots, for example. But the day that Ronaldo and Messi or whoever, Neymar, whoever they retire, where you kind of see them as the face of this boot, do people accept them the new players as these new faces. So you see with the Tiempo a lot actually, where I don't think people have taken to the idea that Van Dijk is pretty much or was the face of the Tiempo for a while after Ramos left Nike, because there was that debate of people saying that Ramos isn't as good as Van Dijk, etc. So there's that kind of rivalry that some people have where they won't accept a player as a wearer of a boot because someone else who they prefer wore that boot instead. And I've seen it a lot with Vinicius a lot as well. They think that he shouldn't have anything to do with Nike, or some with Mbappe to an extent. It's just they don't feel like they're worthy of wearing a Mercurial.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think Andrew said like the other week related to Mbappe that he's come around at the wrong time. Like he's not been in the race properly to win like kind of Ballon d'Ors. He's already like he's not young anymore, and with that as well, like trying to be the face of Nike after Ronaldo, who is still playing, is obviously pretty damn tough. So go on, Andrew. Sorry.
I think part of it too is the fact that, again, standing players, but standing brands, like fans feel like they should be the one to decide who can wear what. Like,
yeah,
you don't deserve to wear Mercurial. I know because I'm a Mercurial fanboy. You're not a Mercurial player. Blah, 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 blah. And I think we're seeing that more and more and more. Not just that people own players, so to speak, but they own the brands. Like, I've worn this boot for X number of years. You're not that type of player.
Yeah, you're not my player in my boot.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, like, I don't know because I don't hear it a lot around here, but I'm wondering if in other countries, like, are we even getting people saying it, like, at the Sunday League level, like, why are you wearing Mercs? You're not a Merc player.
I think you're definitely hearing that. I think that's definitely a thing. Like, you don't get it quite as much here in Ireland, especially around kind of like the Gaelic, like the GAA, things like that, because boots aren't really at that kind of level. Just because people are very set on kind of the more traditional boots and things. But it's definitely something you hear. Some of it I think applies to boots by position, and some of it then applies to, you know, you're not that type of player irrespective of position. The Boot Zone just in the chat here did say, did I not hear somewhere that Nike have set an age limit for players they endorse with special boots, etc.? Yeah, I believe that was on the overlap with Rooney, and I'm pretty sure it was Rooney said that after 30 they're not doing that anymore, so you're not getting signatures and things like that for players after 30, and then they're starting to kind of taper down the contract values. I'm sure Ronaldo is a very individual case. Well, that does seem to be their general market plan at the moment, so that's a very good point. For sure.
Can I just add to that?
I do remember. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to add to like the previous point where we're talking about fans not accepting players taking up faces of the boots, whatever. I think that's more also on the brand to kind of usher new players in sometimes. Because if we look at over Adidas with Bellingham and the Predator, it almost feels like, and Trent as well, the story that they've kind of set up with their marketing where they're the next generation, where you've got Zidane with Bellingham, you've got Trent with Gerrard, you've like the whole kind of story of like the passing of the old guard into the new guard. It's more acceptable to see those players as the players who wear those boots, as opposed to where Nike have pretty much just a flick of a switch and said, yeah, you're not so-and-so anymore. So, yeah, I think there is that kind of transition where some brands haven't made that effort. Maybe that's probably the best word to say, because I think Nike could very easily do it. I think they've shown inklings of when they could do it. The whole Awaken Your Madness ad, they had Ronaldinho as some kind of like godfather figure for football. I think like that transition where you could naturally do something with the Tiempo there. You had the whole briefcase, you have the whole kind of nods of nostalgia where you can transition this current, well, I would say previous generation of players, which everyone loves, and this new generation people are finding hard to love, where you could use players who are unanimously accepted as some of the greats of all time, passing on the the keys to the next generation to take up the mantelpiece. And then I guess that kind of really works with maybe Nike and Adidas to an extent because they're the two biggest ones. Other brands which are smaller, they don't necessarily have that kind of market share where they're household names. So, for example, you wouldn't say the Furon is as well known as a F50 or Mercurial, even though the F50 was gone for a long time. So they can almost build up a presence based on whoever they have at their disposal.
Yeah, I feel like the Furon is like, I know obviously Mane is like, he's your Furon guy, but I feel like he stepped away and now that's now Saka's boot.
Yeah.
Like Saka is the Furon guy. Like that's how that is. That's his boot and it's new. Whereas like you say, I think you're right. There has to be some kind of transition. And I think Nike's problem is that the transition to, in their biggest line, the Mercurial out of Ronaldo has proven incredibly difficult and probably twofold. One, because Nike haven't done it very well, and two, because Ronaldo's probably not necessarily keen to be passing the torch in any kind of ad-based campaign, so it's very hard to do. Whereas I think Adidas with Messi's not necessarily got that same level of kind of stan and things like that. Generally well respected, but I don't think he has quite that same thing. So passing from him is a little bit easier.
Yeah, he doesn't have the same marketability.
He does not at all. And then I think obviously the Predator is, they've got this other line, the Predator, where they have done this really great transition, exactly like you spoke about, and that probably helps that it disappeared for a while. That they're now passing on from players who did play a very long time ago in, Zidane and Beckham and Gerrard, rather than trying to pass on from players who've been playing in the last 5 years. But I agree that what they've done with Bellingham and Trent and that Predator is pretty fantastic. So I think we should kind of wrap up our thoughts on this particular topic. And I think all I'm going to do is just pass to each of you to just some final thoughts about kind of brand and player loyalty, and take the text that I put in the thumbnail, which is brands aren't your friends. Brands are not your friends, which I took from Andrew's blog post, which I read a very long time ago. It's still one of the best things I've ever read in my entire life. Go and search it out. Lockhart Boot blog. Brands are not your friends. And just give me your 2 minutes or whatever on why brands and players are not your friends, or why they are your friends, whatever your take is. Sob?
Okay.
The floor is yours, my friend.
I say brands are definitely not your friends, and you shouldn't see the relationship between brands and players as something between, say, I don't know, an employer, for example, or club, or wherever you're part of. They're more like business deals, and that's only what they are. So you shouldn't necessarily see brands as different levels of hierarchy. That's another thing as well. I know a lot of people with the Kane thing, they said, what's he doing? It's a downgrade from Skechers to Nike until you see the contract. It's definitely not a downgrade in that sense. So I guess take everything you see with a grain of salt, and maybe have more of a business acumen when you see these kind of deals, rather than saying this person's being treated badly or this person's being over celebrated. Just think of them, what from a business sense is being offered to said player and said brand.
Yeah, think about it a little more dispassionately. Andrew, I know you had a little rant earlier, but my friend, I'm open to more. Let's go. What are you thinking?
It's kind of funny. We're talking about stan culture. I'm wearing a Nagatomo fan jersey because it was his birthday yesterday. But Justin puts it perfectly. He's Poe Anderson in the chat. Brands are not your friends because they're built on a capitalist model. No good can come from that.
Yes,
pretty
Justin.
much it. We live in capitalism. Brands are never going to be your friends. Brands are always going to look out for making money. They're profit seeking. They're all profit seeking. Yeah. That's just how it is. Don't defend brands to death. And this can even go for okay, so I work for Adler, right? And I'm not going to sit there I love their product. That's one of the reasons I signed up with them. But at the same time, if they do something that I don't like, I'm going to call them out on it, right? It's not acceptable. You know, I've had one person who was saying like how, you know, something happened with their boots, and I was like, I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. I didn't turn around and say like, well, it's totally your fault for X, Y, and Z. That's not acceptable. It doesn't matter what brand it is. It doesn't matter what kind of history you have with them, blah, blah, blah. You know, call stuff out. Don't be afraid to call stuff out. And and at the very end, don't be afraid to jump around to different boots. Don't nail your sale to, you know, one boot or one line. Explore. You know, we could all benefit from exploring more. The market could, you could. I mean, I always think of like this idea of you blindfolded somebody and gave them a bunch of boots and told them just to put them on. What they pick versus what they would buy with their eyes open, it's two completely different things.
Yeah, for sure. So Andrew definitely stole my point there straight out of my brain. So I was going to finish up by basically making this point that by being so into brands and into players, you are denying yourself and others the opportunity to think critically. You are not thinking critically about the products that you buy, about what you do, and you're not helping yourself, you're not helping other people. And if you were to think more critically about how you spend your money, everybody would benefit. And to Andrew's point about what you put on your feet and how it feels versus what you might then buy, I take the Sakito. Now, I saw there's been a lot of negative chat around this. A few people have said a few things to me. I've seen a few things in comments, and the negativity to me isn't based on the boot. People getting annoyed or upset that, oh, it's 200 euros. Why would I spend 200 euros on this? It's only X amount cheaper than Nike, Adidas, Puma, these established big brands. I'm like, well, you're being foolish. You're assuming that because it is, you're assuming that it is an established big brand, therefore it is better because you're unwilling to be critical. And if you were to blindfold somebody, like I say, I only put these on today, but I put these on for the first time, and if I was Noah Kavanagh, my words would have been, "Oh my days." These are you know what? These are a double "oh my days" just immediately on feet. Now, as I try them, they you know, my opinion may change, but just an immediate put on feet, "oh my days." And yeah, like I think that's the way that you should and have to approach things. And that's my piece. And Andrew, what has Justin said in the chat that we wish to appreciate?
Justin just said, I think a problem is criticism, and it's almost seen as a spit in the face when it's not, and it shouldn't be. Accountability is a great thing.
Oh, Justin, you said my favorite word. Accountability.
Perfect.
Accountability. Oh, yes.
Don't be afraid. Like, I don't want to
be
drag
accountable,
this on for too long,
hold
but like,
others accountable.
For so many years, Nike's had great customer service for a long time, but they need to have it because their boots don't freaking last. And I never understood why people like would just keep buying Nike boots. If I buy a boot and it breaks on me, I'm not going to buy another pair. But the amount of people who would buy Merc and be like, oh, it's just a bum pair, or, you know, this just happens. Like, you're giving excuses to the companies, and then you turn around and say, like, these are great boots. They're not great boots.
Yeah.
The boots should last. So, yeah, I've absolutely seen that. But yeah, accountability.
Yeah, accountability is the word. Be accountable yourself. That is incredibly important. But also hold others accountable. It's
so important.
It is difficult, yeah.
It's very difficult.
Footloose Boots has just said here, the Boot Nerds podcast also got some negativity over the Sakito launch. I've deliberately avoided all reviews on the Sakito to try and give it it's very rare you get a brand new product and a brand new boot from a brand new company that you get to go into almost like clean and a little bit blind. So I've been trying to stay away from as much as I can, so I haven't seen it. But yeah, for me, a lot of the Sakito negativity is nonsense based around the fact that it's not a Nike, Adidas, whatever boot. But anyway, With that, I think we should wrap up this section. And I have realized at the beginning, now there are some questions I still want to get to. So if nobody has any complaints, we are going to continue and run over our hour. Shock.
That's pretty usual.
But so I want to get to the questions, but what I want to do first is something I completely forgot to do at the beginning, and I'm surprised that Andrew didn't call me out on this because he's usually absolutely on it. We didn't do what got released this week. So let's.
I thought you were just moving it around.
Nah,
like,
absolutely
I thought about
not.
It and
completely
you just went
missed
off
it.
And I was just
completely missed it.
Okay, I guess this is what we're doing this week.
Nah, messed it up. So here is our tier list for anybody who is watching. This is how we rank boots: great, good, meh, bad, and awful. And we're going to look at everything that was released this week, and we're going to decide which tier it belongs in. And I suppose the logical place to start is with the Neymar future. So the reason I was going to do this before the chat is because my segue into the chat, into the topic, was this boot, which I completely didn't do. God bless the Freeform podcast. So this is obviously a new Puma future for Neymar, the BNA. So it's, what's that? Brazilian like natural ability, I think is what they've labeled that, which is so dumb. But in terms of rankings and thoughts, Sub, where are you with this Neymar release?
You know, in the past, I've not been too happy with the Puma Neymar signatures, but this one I like a lot. So I think this one, are the ones Puma have released for him so far. There's probably like at least my top 3 favorite ones for him. I really like these.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are we going great or good for you?
I'm going good. I won't say great, just
good.
Good.
Okay. Andrew?
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining about the gold. I think it's a great touch on these, actually. I think their choice of shade of gold matches really well with the blue they've chosen. They do look good. That being said, it's Neymar, so meh. I literally don't know why people still give Neymar the time of day.
And Andrew is the anti-stan of Neymar.
That's another interesting topic, to be honest, as well. I always find with Neymar.
Isn't it just? Yeah. Isn't it just? We'll be here for another hour, so let's not. So where are you ranking them, Andrew? Meh. I am one of those that has complained about the gold. Now, not necessarily the gold on the boot, but the gold on the sole plate. I think it looks cheap. It looks like it should have had a wearable finish, and it's worn off, and this is what's underneath. And I think the gold on the sole plate looks a bit cheap. I really like the blue. I think they've really forced the Brazilian element of it with the green and yellow in the power tape. I think this all needed to be dialed back into just 3 colors, or maybe 4 if you're including the white in the Power Cat there. But in the Puma Cat, I say Power Cat, you know what I mean. But I think the shaded blue is really nice. I think blue and gold's a great look. But yeah, for me, it's meh as well. It's not working for me.
Yep.
With that, let's move on to another signature model. Now, this technically didn't release. Apparently,
on the account,
this so soccer.com put out all of the images of this, and everybody went, "Oh!" And
then Mizuno
then they took them all.
What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, then Mizuno went, "What are you doing? That's not out yet." So they took everything down. But as far as we're concerned, that's an official release. It's come from an official source. So this is the new alpha for Sergio Ramos, and it is the Sevilla, based on obviously. Is it his hometown, or is that just his home club? It's his hometown.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead without giving too much context. The Alpha is incredible. It's the best speed boot on the market. This is amazing. I'm going to put it in great. Sub, what do you think?
I'm going to go great as well because it's got my favorite colors, red, gold, and white on boots. Alpha is a boot I want to try as well. I'm trying to find a pair. I found a pair on Vinted that I probably will buy eventually. Just waiting for the price to maybe go down if it's easy, if the person drops the price. But yeah, these look incredible. My only one gripe is like, when players get boots or when brands release boots, especially signature boots, I like the players to actually be able to play in them. He currently doesn't have a club. So we're never going to see these on the pitch.
He does not.
So it's more of the brand trying to make something off his name rather than we're going to actually see him use them.
Yeah.
But it's still going in great for me. I think they're amazing.
Yeah, I
Andrew?
think because Mizuno have spent so much money on Sergio Ramos, like no matter what happens, they've got to release something. They kind of have to. It's like, well, we made our bed, we better sleep in it. So, but yeah, they look amazing. That shade of red that they used as well, like it looks
Beautiful.
so good. Yeah, great colorway combination. So yeah, definitely great. See, Mizuno,
certainly...
look what happens when you try.
It's certainly not solar red, is it?
No.
No, they're really, really nice. Okay, what else do we have? These, okay, I definitely want to talk a bit about these. These have really piqued my interest, way more than I thought they would when I first saw them. So this is the Umbro Velociter Matrix. So the first thing I want to say is that I have been complaining for some time about the fact that there are multiple versions of the Velociter boot which you can buy, and it confuses the whole thing. I discovered that apparently that's not the case, or it's not what should be the case. Each name on the end is not a different model that they are offering at the same time, despite the fact they are all available on the Umbro website, or they were recently. It's actually a new generation each time. But it's still very confusing, and that, like, but anyway. So this is the new Velociter. This is the only current Velociter, and they have finally updated the sole plate, which unfortunately I don't have an image of, but it looks like it's being reinforced. Yeah. I'm really pleased about that. There is some of that castor bean tech that they've used in the Sakito is in the Velociter as well, and the upper apparently is made from 85% of recycled materials. And either Umbro has done a horrible job of marketing these, or Umbro has been so horrible for so long that nobody seems to care. But yeah, bit of column A, bit of column B. But considering the hype around the sustainability aspect of these, now I don't expect the Umbro to be as good as these, to be honest. But looking at it, it looks like it might be decent.
Good. Yeah,
and I want to try these, and I think Umbro deserve all of the credit in the world for going down the sustainability route and using this tech and genuinely producing something that is interesting. They just need to market the crap out of it now and hopefully get some really good reviews out there and convince some people to buy them. However,
no, maybe they should just put them in the hands of reviewers instead of just random dudes on social media.
Yeah, it would help. They are £210. 210 Great British Pounds. It's about €230, I think. They're around the same price as the Pumas and the New Balance. It's a little
steep
rich for my blood. Yeah, I think that's a bit much. But I do really want to review them, and they are very, very interesting.
Same.
So I'm going to put these in. I'm going to put them in good because of like my interest. Sub, what are your thoughts?
You know, I don't love the color scheme, the colorway too much. But the whole kind of premise of the boots, the whole sustainability stuff, I'm always on board with that kind of stuff. The price is steep, like you said, and 85%. I think Adidas have, is it the game mode, which is made up the same amount of recycled content, and that's only like around £85. I don't think
it's not very good though.
No, it's not. It's really not. Yeah, I put these in meh. I'm quite interested to try these as well. Actually, they remind me a lot in terms of just the construction of the X19 Plus. No, not Plus, the 0.1. Or the Immortana, that kind of like shape to it. Well, yeah, I put these in
with the kind of the higher heel at the back and things. Yeah. Interesting. Andrew, rankings, thoughts?
So I'll put them in good because you put them there. But yeah, I'm very, very interested in these. Like these speak to me on a kind of a primal level in some ways. I always want Umbro to do good. Like I have a super big soft spot for them, and every time they come out with something new and it doesn't end up performing, I'm disappointed. But these, just looking at them, they seem different.
They do. I agree. Yeah, I that I'm very keen on trying those, and it's the first time I've said that in a while about an Umbro boot. I think Umbro they've got something here. They've got something, I think. Okay, let's move on to
real quickly. Jason, who's at Feeder Chew, Jason from Boot Hype said, "Yeah, I'm wondering if the China factory has stepped up their R&D, is starting to offer all these recycled, sustainable materials." It could be,
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Footloose Boots also makes a great point. While recycling is great, the reason we love Sakito is that they have a system in place when they where they release new boots and recycle your old boots. That's very, very true.
Absolutely.
That does give them an edge, no doubt.
Actually, at the event they had a whole bag of like old boots as well that I guess they were going to recycle. So
nice.
It was nice. I looked inside, like, there's a pair of TM47s that could maybe use a second home, but.
Yeah, you're like, I can rescue those. I can rescue those.
we had a donation box at my old job for a while, and people were putting stuff in, and we were donating them. It was great, and like a lot of the boots that were donated were in good shape. So like we were like, oh, cool, this is awesome that we're doing this. The charity stopped working with us or something, which was weird. That was such a win-win. Like, it looks good on us, it's sustainable, and customers can do something with the boots their kids have grown out of. And I remember somebody put in a almost brand new pair of Pulses. And one of the English guys I worked with was like, and just like kind of was like, next match I was like, oh, hey, I recognize those Pulses. That's weird. Where'd you get those? And he was like, oh, they went to somebody in need.
Well, it's all better than going in the bin, I suppose.
Yeah. Totally.
Okay, we got 2 boots left to cover before we get to questions. So we have this, which I find very interesting. So this boot, this boot in almost its identical form was around, what, 10 years ago?
15 years ago. Something like that. At
least 10 years ago. They were definitely around 2014. And so this is the Cruyff Recopa,
yes.
something like that.
Recopa.
Yeah, these look fantastic. I don't know if they're any good, but they look lovely.
Oh, they're so nice. So I'm pretty sure these are made by Pantoffelid Oro in their factory.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of background. When Cruyff started his own brand in the early 80s, he had really good connections with the Emilio Lazzarini, the guy who started Pantoffel, or no, it was his son, right? And so they had a deal where Pantoffelid would make his boots for him.
Okay.
And they did that for several years, even in like early 2012 and stuff. They Pantoffelid still had that agreement in place, and they carried their boots for years and years and years. Even up until like 2017, you could buy them from their website, but then they just kind of stopped. They kind of focused on football in the Netherlands, or futsal in the Netherlands, over doing actual boots. But yeah, when I saw these pop up, I was like, oh, they're back. So again, the blog is broke. Please buy my boots. Please support the blog, because I want to get a pair of these and review them. They look so good.
Yeah, I can't do anything but put these in great. I just think they're so classic. Black and gold. They're a lovely looking boot. They're great for me.
And his autograph instead of a giant C. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Very nice. Sub, what are your thoughts on the Cruyff Recopa?
Folding tongue. So.
No, the man hates a folding tongue.
I knew it. It was coming.
We knew it.
It's a bit too traditional for me, I'd say. That's probably the best way to put it. I'm not too big on the Copa Mundial as well. So boots of that kind of ilk.
These kids.
Spot the old guys.
Generation's lost.
Spot the old guys on the podcast.
Yeah, so I put these because it's Cruyff. I'll put them in meh, not bad. So.
Oh wow, wow! That's I thought he was gonna say good and not meh. No, man, not bad. Ouch. Man hates a fold over tongue. Speaking of fold over tongues, we will move on to our final boot of the week. Something that we saw quite some time ago.
These are really good.
Yeah, so Footloose Boots pointed out that we saw these in like May, and then they've got an official release. They jumped upon the Adidas website earlier today, I believe. App-only purchase. So this is the Copa, I assume it's supposed to be Copa Special. Special. And these are fabulous. Like,
so I'm sitting there like another fold over tongue. I can tell. I'm just looking. I'm not looking at the boots. I'm looking right at Sub, and it's just like his face is like. These are great, Sub. How dare you? How dare you with all of your knowledge and intelligence, and you come onto our podcast and then you just crap on all this stuff we like. How dare you? Please come back on sometime. You've been brilliant. But how dare you?
Do you know what I really like? And it's an odd thing to really like. I like the kind of gum-colored sole. I think that was a really nice touch.
So good. Red studs, gum-colored sole. Yeah, it's awesome.
This is beautiful. This is great for me. I don't need to say anymore. I will pass over to Sub, though, and let him crap all over it and
I'm gonna
make us feel bad and old.
I won't say too much. I'm thinking of good things I can actually say here.
Just give us your honest opinion, Sub. That's what we've got you here for. We don't need you to sugarcoat it. It's okay. Just meh.
I guess we should feel happy he put it in meh and not like something worse.
It's so
if the color was a bit different, I'd take more to it. There's just too much going on. Maybe if the tongue had a bit more red to it, I'd say maybe, but just. No.
Yeah, like if they made the logoing and stuff that like white but with a red base,
that would have been nice. Yeah. You still can't make me. You still can't make me hate on it. No. It's so true.
Justin, shut up.
Justin, you've been doing so well this podcast.
I love you, Justin.
We all love you, Justin. But anyway, okay, so that is our ranking. So let's get on to the questions. Like I say, usually if we go over the hour, we don't do questions, but there are some good questions here. I really appreciate everybody who sent in a question, particularly those that were related to the topic.
There's a really question to answer in there. Easy question to answer in there.
Oh yeah, I know which one you mean. We'll get that. So I'll give a reasonable answer, and then you can go on from there. We'll start with a different question. We'll start from the top. So this is from M Burns 396. I assume this is the one and only Montgomery Burns, and it's a good question. I like this. If you had to be brand loyal for the rest of your life based on 2024 boots, what brand would you pick? Like, who would it be? Sub, what are you thinking?
Based on 2024 boots.
On 2024 boots, so the current lineup, what brand would you go for?
Wow.
It's a podcast, Sub. You gotta make noise.
Yeah, sorry. I'm thinking. That's a hard question.
It is. It's a very difficult question.
I'll still say it's Nike. Really.
Still going the Nike.
I'm still going the Nike. I've not tried the Copa as such. I've used all of Nike's models so far, and I would say it had to be then. I just had that one.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm stuck on a podcast with two Nike fanboys.
Stan culture. Andrew, are you going to pick the obvious or the second most obvious answer?
No, obvious.
The obvious answer. Okay. Yeah.
It's obvious.
Oh, the obvious answer. I figured the second most obvious answer was Mizuno. Yeah. That's fair. I am going to go with a slightly unexpected pick, I think, but I can't go with Nike. There's not enough.
I beat you to death for it.
Adidas would be somewhat of a shout. They're probably the best of the big three. Puma, no. I do love the Ultra though. New Balance is great, but not forever.
Oh, Matt's in the chat. Hi, Matt.
So I would go with Asics. That would be my pick because they've got a couple of really excellent synthetic leather boots in there, and the DS Lite X Fly 5 is godly. So yeah, that would be my pick. There we go. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So this is more of an opinion. I just wanted to read it out and then we'll move on to the question. This is from Footloose Boots. This is in relation to the main topic, who just said, as teams get more global, it makes more sense why people prefer players instead of teams. He's never been to Liverpool, but his favourite player is Michael Owen. So that essentially ties into what we're talking about the accessibility of players and how global everything is. It's a lot easier to have a connection with a player than it is to a club that's so far away. So yeah. Then, so next up, we have a name that I absolutely cannot pronounce. It's DLLANAIAZ, whatever that says. This is an interesting question, but I think an easy answer. So how involved do you feel a player should be when it comes to their signature boot? So
I'd say the only real involvement they should have, I guess, would be maybe the colorway as such, and maybe some designs here and there. Because you look at some of the designs we've seen from past players, I wouldn't say a lot of the time they do a good job, the brands, but sometimes we're just thinking this is just a bit too cringe. So my best example would be the Sancho.
The Sancho sauce.
Or just like Sancho sauce. It's just, I guess there are some elements of it which are very like generic, the whole no bowl game sign. So if you're from a London estate, that's just pretty much natural. But yeah, but the whole, sometimes I think it's a bit, maybe if you actually got the player involved and ask them what they'd like, it makes the boot a bit more special as well when you're branding it as well to consumers. So yeah, I'd say, what colorway would you say is about maybe 15%? If you could give the arbitrary number. So,
Andrew?
I just love that Justin's in the chat saying he loves the Sancho boots.
That's such a Justin thing to love.
Who would have said that? Yeah, I think they should be very involved. So I don't know why I remembered this. This is such a random thing. Back in like 2012, back when my Adidas was still around, Adidas held a competition where you submitted your designs to them and Messi would pick a design to wear.
Okay.
And somebody just did white, black, and red. It looked very simple, but very classy. Yeah. And Messi duly wore them for like a couple matches. And I was like, that's really cool. Stuff like that's really cool. Like,
yeah,
I would love to see more of that. So I kind of think players, again, the colorway and some of the design, but they're not designers. Like, you know, they're probably going to have some questionable things they want to have on your boots that would make, you know, anybody who's not them go, sure about that, Chief? So as involved, yeah, up into like some design elements, sure. Or if like they do something on a boot and the players like kind of don't like that, you know, I'm thinking of the whole Messi being told to wear yellow boots for the 2010 World Cup and him going, yeah, I'm not wearing yellow boots at a World Cup.
Yeah. I do need to briefly apologize because it seems I said the previous statement was from Footloose Boots when it was actually from Proper Boots, and Proper Boots is absolutely right. I do sometimes get Proper Boots and Footloose Boots confused when it comes to their names, and I write the wrong one down. I'm very sorry. It was a Proper Boots statement. But anyway, so with my answer to how involved I think a player should be, what I'd love to see is that in terms of colorway, they have kind of the influence that maybe you're talking about, colorway and design, that kind of slightly more minimal influence, but them not being a full designer because they're not a designer. But at the same time, I would like to see more of the player kind of technology that they want to have bleed over into those signature boots. So, you know, that we got the burrito tongue on the Messi boots. I'd love to have seen that with the Gamba tracks. Just some more of that kind of bleeding over. I think that would make signature boots very, very special if they genuinely had that player element. Like back in the day when the Superfly had the high collar, Ronaldo had the smaller collar. Give Ronaldo's signature boots the smaller collar. I thought that would have been that would be excellent. I'd love to see that. Okay, moving on. So
we've got a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, okay. Would you like to take those, Andrew?
Tiang,
I do a bad job of keeping
Any
up with the chat.
Any idea why Nike won't release Nike ID Tiempos? Well, because the Tiempo sucks, and they know that they're losing money on it. And any new mercs? There's always new materials. Just wait a month. There's a new material. Boots Plug, thanks for joining us. How many colorways are too many colorways for a model?
What have
I think we
Adidas
kind of
doing?
talked about this more. Yeah.
What have Adidas doing? It's just too many.
Yeah. What Addy is doing is really bad.
That's too many. I think
we said this before.
What did we say? 4 a year is like good. That's like that's like
4 to
good
6,
number.
like 4, and then have 2 special editions.
Yeah, and that is almost too much. Like 6, like 1 every 2 months is a lot. Like, like I think if you are going more than 6 colorways, including special editions, signature boots, absolutely everything for a boot, you are way over the line. I would be happy with 4. 6, I think, is acceptable in the current culture. If it is more than 6, you have got to be kidding me. Like 6 in a 12-month period is insane. Any thoughts on that? So
I would say 6 is a bit too low for me, in the sense that
bloody kids.
In the sense that 4 is fine,
Andrew, we're
but
so old.
like I think every model should have like that blackout and whiteout colorway come out with them as well.
That's true.
I think
I agree.
so. I almost kind of put that to the side a bit. So you have those 2 as like just standard releases for every model. Maybe then you have like 4 inline colorways, and then depending on the amount of athletes you have with signature lines, maybe 1 or 2 a season, or just 1 a season really. And I think that should be so around 9, 8. That should be not too much, but not too low.
That's still not horrible.
Yeah.
Like
it's not whatever Adidas are doing right now, which is honestly, there was a point where I was convinced that they were trying to put out the same number of boots as they were like, the number of years the Predator has been around.
It's only September, man.
My God.
It's only September. There's still time if they keep up like they did earlier this year.
Yeah. I will make a prediction now, which can be proven false later, is that, and this is quite a bold statement, I think, so if the Merc runs for 2 years, which it normally does, I think there'll still have been more Predator colorways than there will be Mercurial colorways. There'll be more Predator colorways in this 12 months than there will be Mercurial colorways in the 2 years.
Don't challenge Nike to that, James, because they will absolutely take that challenge.
That was not a challenge, Nike. Okay, and we will move on to the next question on the list here, which is an interesting one, and I please do want to make this very clear that this is not throwing shade at anybody. It is just a question that has been asked, and I'm going to read it verbatim. And this is from Sergio.Reiko, and the question is, why is it that the likes of SR4U refuse to review Adler? So I will go, then Sob will go, and then Andrew can have thoughts. So my assumption, like I say, I don't know Josh. I've never spoken to Josh. I'm absolutely not throwing shade at Josh. My assumption is that Josh has some very good affiliate deals with the boots that he reviews. So every single boot that he comes up, you can go to his website, you click on it, you've got your SR4U coupon codes that give you discounts. If he makes anywhere between 2 and 5% on every single sale that's made from those discount codes, he is pulling in a good amount of affiliate money, and it's funding. Like Andrew and I have spoken about how hard it is to try and do what we do. Sub, I'm sure, is in the same boat in terms of finance, and I am assuming that Josh is basically getting the money in through those affiliate links, and he doesn't want to promote a boot using these affiliate that he doesn't have these affiliate links for. I don't think I've ever seen him do a review on a boot that doesn't have the affiliate links if the review potentially hasn't been paid for. I have a feeling that some of the reviews will have been paid, which again, no shade, I think that's a perfectly acceptable thing to happen. That's what happens in the world of reviews when you're that big. But I'm assuming it essentially is financial. That's my assumption, but I couldn't confirm. Sub, thoughts?
That makes sense, because I've not really noticed that he refused. I didn't know he refused to actually review Adler, or maybe just hadn't.
I don't know if he refused. He has had, Andrew will talk about it, he has had the opportunity.
Okay.
Oh, I was waiting on Sub. Sorry.
Yeah, no, like I just this is just news to me. I never knew that he accepted them.
He's just never reviewed them.
Okay.
Like, there's no statement that he's refusing to review them. He just never has done, but has had the opportunity. Andrew, thoughts?
Yeah, so I was the one who initially handled getting boots out to reviewers and stuff back in the day. That was only like a year or so ago. Anyways, so like J Mike has 2 pairs, and I know J Mike can't put them on Unisport. Unisport's not selling the boot. That's fine. For that, I was purely just interested in J Mike's thoughts and opinions, and they got sent to a few other people just for their thoughts and opinions, not because I knew they would promote them or anything, just because I genuinely wanted their thoughts. Okay, so I got 2 pairs for Josh, and I've messaged him several times on multiple different ways to message him and said, hey, I've got these boots. Do you want to try them out? I've got 2 pairs for you. They're in your size. I just want to hear your thoughts, blah, blah, blah. Even if you don't want to do a video, you have the opportunity to try these boots. I'm going to just send them to you. Give me an address, blah, blah, blah. And I never got a response. And he's had I've seen several of his videos. I still watch his content every now and then because, of course, it's Josh. You kind of can't miss it. And there's been a lot of people commenting in his on his videos like, hey, you should review Adler. Adler deserves time of day, blah, blah, blah. And he never answers those. And so it could be just he doesn't see it. And that's, that's fine. But again, I think it's also financial in some ways. And no shade to the guy. He knows what he's doing. That's fine, Aside from whatever opinions you have about how he does his content and things like that, he knows what he's doing. That's perfectly fine. But he has had the chance multiple times. I followed up with him multiple times and never got a response. So, for whatever reason, he does not seem, I don't know for sure, he does not seem like he either did see the messages or he doesn't want to do it. And that's fine. That's, that's up to him. He should do it, but, and they're not, you have to order directly from Adler, and maybe that's scaring him off a bit and he doesn't want to promote them. That makes sense. But, we don't know. We don't know.
I suppose the simple answer to the question is we don't know. We're completely speculating. Justin, I think, made a point just around somewhere where he said sometimes he said that if he won't reviews that aren't easily available to get in North America, which I think the Adler is easy enough to get in North America, but I see the point, and I still think it's tied to the affiliates, to be honest. But fair enough. Chris Pottle with a comment for you there, Andrew.
I saw that. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we are on to our last question, unless we have anything that comes up in the chat between us starting this question and finishing this question. This is from a regular contributor to our questions, here. And the question is quite simply, what other brand would you like to see sponsor a football kit? So is there a brand? I assume this is a kit manufacturer rather than a front of shirt sponsor. What brand would you like to see maybe make a football kit for either a specific club or just in general? Sub, what are your thoughts?
I'm just confused by the question. So can you just repeat that as well?
So, like, for example, like Adidas make Man United shirts, Arsenal shirts, etc. Nike make Chelsea shirts. Is there a brand that you want to see manufacture like a jersey for a team? So either say you want Arsenal to be manufactured by Mizuno, for example, or is there just a brand that doesn't make football jerseys that you'd like to see in the market?
I'd like to see an Arsenal Kappa one. I think Kappa make very good traditional looking football shirts.
Yes, there's a call.
And I say Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan, so there's a bit of bias there, but I think Arsenal Kappa would work well. To be fair, they did work with Spurs. They didn't make great kits with Spurs. I'm not surprised. You can't do much of that. That might come back to bite me on Sunday.
Big game on Sunday.
But the way Adidas have done a great job with Arsenal so far, and I think we have a lot of cultural kind of figureheads and just traditions, which I think would work well with the Kappa designers based on what they've done with the likes of Venezia, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
great shout, actually. Really, really love that. Andrew, any particular brands?
I'm gonna put my conspiracy theory hat on and say I feel
Ooh.
like we'll see something from Sokito at some point,
Yeah, I reckon so.
and I would love to see what they could do.
Yeah. Thanks for stealing my answer. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
We spend too much time on this podcast together. The minds are becoming synced. Yeah, like essentially the Sokito thing for me was purely based on the recycled element. Like I know obviously Nike and Adidas have had the Parley collaboration and third kits, and now more kits are generally starting to be made with recycled materials and, you know, ocean waste and things like that, but I just don't think they're going far enough. And I would love to see a brand such as Sokito that puts sustainability at the forefront really do that. Have a scheme where you can return your old shirt if it's all mashed up and broken from the season and get discount off a new one. It makes perfect sense. And
Sokito and Forest Green.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's
yes.
perfect. Yeah.
What a call. Who was that?
That's a great shout. The Boot Zone. That's a great shout.
Yes. Yes.
That's
there we go. That's a win right there. There we go. Boot Zone also says bring back Fila. Love that. I feel like Adler would make sick jerseys for the Japan national team, Matthew. They probably would.
We'll see what Adler's up to. I'm not going to say anything.
Footloose Boots would like a Reebok comeback, which would be kind of cool. I'd be interested to see
all those
see
old
that.
Reebok Chile jerseys they did back in the day with the huge logo.
Love that. And Justin has a specific question for Sub. So Sub, while you're on the podcast, let's get this done. Sub, if you could bring back one specific boot in one specific colorway, what would it be?
You already might know my answer. Mercurial Vapor 3, white, black, and gold.
Beautiful.
Ooh, great.
Beautiful.
Great colorway.
There's two serious Mercurial Vapor 3 lovers on this podcast right now.
Boot Zone, the pony shout
Yes, Pony.
They did Southampton,
Gary Neville,
right? Yeah.
Gary Neville used to wear pony boots.
Yeah, he did. Oh my gosh.
Sub's sitting there thinking,
yeah,
pony?
What the hell is a pony?
No idea.
What is a pony?
Umbro should do England again. Umbro should absolutely do England again.
Yeah.
Some of the Nike kits that that Nike kits that's been done for England has been horrific.
Yeah.
They've done, like, the anniversary kit they did a few years ago was awful. But that's actually a nice kit.
I do really like this one. I think this is great.
Yeah, they've gotten better.
But yeah.
West Ham kit was made by Pony. That's right. And like Tony Cotty, Steve Potts,
what a
Dave
call.
Kitson. Yeah.
What a call.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's also some knowledge, Andrew, pulling those players out. There we go.
Steve Potts only ever scored one goal.
Oh, the knowledge is elite. Oh God. With that, I think we will begin to wrap up our podcast. Thank you all for joining us. Please do like this video, get subscribed to the channel. If you are watching this on the recap on Sunday, then please get your comments down below and also like the video, get subscribed to the channel. Thank you to everyone who has joined us in the chat. There have been 140 of you at various points this evening, which is massive, which we absolutely love. I want to say a huge thanks to our special guest today, Substance Football, who has been
for joining us.
Amazing as always. We love having you on. Sub, could you please tell the people where they can find you so that you can avail of some extra, hopefully some extra subscribers. And also, Sub just put out a fantastic video, which I watched just before the podcast, on a boot sizing trick. I can't remember the exact wording, which is pretty cool. And completely off topic, and just some props for Sub. The thumbnail's class. But anyway, it's purple if anybody needs to go and find it. Sub, where can the people find you? I'll show up.
You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I don't hardly use it, but Twitter as well. Same handle. At Substance, so SUBSTANCE, and then football is spelled FTBL.
Excellent. And if you send a carrier pigeon, it will probably find him at that as well. Andrew, where can the people find you?
I just want to say, we've talked a lot about stan culture. Stan us, okay?
Stan culture is
We
bad.
deserve
Stan
it.
us.
Ronaldo, who cares? Messi, who cares? Mbappe, Mercurial, F50, Predator. Stan us. Were you going to buy new Preds? Don't buy new Preds. Give me the money. I'll spend it for you. No, but seriously, we appreciate y'all's support. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone who's joined us. Yeah, greatly appreciate all the support today. And yeah, find me at Lockhart Boot Blog, Instagram, and on Facebook. Somehow I've got 1,000 followers on Facebook, weirdly. I never post on there. And then, yeah, on my website.
And specifically by Japanese carrier pigeon. But that is all from us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Do go and check out the Bootcast podcast. Actually, they've got a really good episode this week. I want to give them a quick shout out as well.
A great episode.
A really fun episode this week, and it only takes you 45 minutes to watch, not an hour and 45. So please go and check that out. How do they do it?
Tell me your secret.
They're so tight and organized. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Sub.
Thank
and
you.
we're going to sign off, and we will see you soon.